I just shared a little bit about the work that CAP is doing to convene a group of key stakeholders, providers, payers, both public and private, patient groups, and also some policymakers to think about how to best design a framework for bundled payments for at least two cancers. And we decided to start with two of the most common ones, lung and colon. And the goal is to not only design this framework, but then to kind of use the work of the consortium to push for wide adoption so that people can start piloting bundled payments and we can start refining the model and getting some data about how they work. It's been a great learning experience for me, and I hope for other members of the consortium too. The work is very challenging because it's really important that we get this right in terms of determining what to include in the bundle, which patients and how they would be attributed to bundles, and also the quality measures that have to be associated with use of the bundles. So figuring out the details of how all of that would work and how it would work for everyone in the system, so for both a provider and a payer who would enter into a contract to use this model, but also for patients who really should be at the center of all of this. I think it's challenging to think through some of those details, and some of that data is not even available yet, so a large part of the work is going to be getting payers to go through some claims data and to do some analysis of that to figure out what the right level of payment is, which services are right to include. But I think there's a lot of progress that's being made, and the potential for this to really have a positive impact kind of on the field of oncology, and at least in terms of how it's paid for and how care is delivered, there's a lot of potential there. So I think there's a big reward for all of the work that's going into it. So I think it's really important for patient advocates to be engaged in this work, and for it, in the consortium in particular. And a lot of the questions that we're thinking through, I think payers have some idea of what patients might want, and providers also have some perspective of what they think patients might want. But it's really important to hear from patients themselves. And I think that there are a lot of questions about, how to talk to patients about some of this. What are the right quality measures? What measures matter the most to patients? So, for example, I think some of the focus groups that people in the consortium have done showed that a lot of patients are not actually that interested in survival rates, which is one of the primary outcome measures used right now in cancer, and that's what a lot of the doctors really care about, how long their patients are surviving without recurrence. And patients, that wasn't the number one thing. A lot of what patients seemed the most passionate about was kind of what kind of quality of life am I going to have? How is it going to affect my social life? How is it going to affect my ability to go to work? And those are things that we're not good at measuring yet, but we need to be better at. And I think there are other questions, like everyone in the group really agreed that it's important that doctors have a conversation with patients about advance directives and having some kind of plan in place. But what's the right time to talk to patients about that? I think a lot of doctors are hesitant to bring that up with patients. Some patients really want to talk about it, and I think some patients really don't. And so when we're thinking about a bundle and which services to include or how to measure quality, which includes things like having docs ask patients about advance directives or care planning, it would be great to get input on how to have that conversation, when to have that conversation in a way that's really helpful to the patient and respectful of them, and includes their families or caregivers who are really involved in their process as well.